order to accept reality that feels unacceptable, you usually have to make an effort more than once. You sometimes have to keep choosing to accept reality over and over and over again. Let's get into turning the mind. Turning the mind is choosing to accept. Acceptance requires some sort of choice. I like to say that choice is the one thing that is in your control. You cannot control your environments. You cannot control other people. You cannot control your feelings, but you can control your choices and how you respond to all things that you experience. Acceptance sometimes only lasts a moment or two. You have to keep turning the mind. The more painful the event, the more it can take to accept it fully. The choice is to be made every day, sometimes many, many times a day, or even multiple times in an hour or in a minute. Accepting that no one wants to go see a movie that you want to see will be accepted rapidly. Accepting that you did not get into college, that you did not get a job offer that you were hoping for, that you are disabled after a car accident, or that perhaps your child has died, will each take progressively more effort turning them into acceptance. Turning the mind is sometimes like turning your head. It requires just a few degrees of movement. Sometimes, though, it is like turning the whole body. It requires a full turn back to the path. The slightest movement, if you think about it, gives you a completely different point of view. An inch to the left, and you see things differently than in the center, or an inch to the right. That's your physical seeing. When you think about perspective in your mind, the same applies. All of us ultimately have to accept that we are who we are, with all of our imperfections. Not doing so can cause unending suffering, grief, and sadness. For many, however, this takes repeated practice, accepting over and over and over again. There are 4 steps to turning the mind. First, observe that you are no longer accepting. The tip-off is often anger, bitterness, annoyance, frustration, or falling into the place of, why me? You might find that you are trying to escape reality. You are trying to block things out. You are hiding behind other things, or you are covering up how you really feel. You find yourself saying why all the time. Why is this happening? The second step in turning the mind is to make an inner commitment to accept reality as it is. Go inside yourself and turn your mind towards acceptance. The inner commitment itself is not accepting. You do not have to accept right away. You have to make the commitment first. The third step in turning the mind is to do it again, over and over. Sometimes you may have to go through the first 2 steps again, over and over. Many times in a moment. Sometimes you have to do it many times in a day. A common example is losing your keys. You look in your pockets and they're not there. You accept that and you look elsewhere. Soon you lose your acceptance and look in your pocket again. They still aren't there. You accept and you come back to the pocket again. You accept and come back to the pocket again. Get what I'm saying? The final step in turning the mind is to develop a plan for catching yourself when you drift out of acceptance. Like the emotion regulation skill Cope Ahead, planning for the future can be very helpful in behaving skillfully. Think through what you usually do when you are not accepting. What cues could you use to alert yourself that you were drifting away from acceptance? You might also decide to check in with yourself on some regular basis. For instance, every night before going to bed or each morning, to review whether you need to turn your mind to accept.